This video in the Wired Labs series on Omeka and Neatline shows you how to publish and edit Omeka items and collections. Before you view this video, make sure you have an understanding of Omeka's data structure and a plan already in place, either given by your instructor or created by you ahead of time, for how you will enter information into Omeka's Dublin Core fields. The content in this video is also explained in a written tutorial that you can find here or in the description below these videos. If you'd like to follow the text in this video, make sure you've turned on closed captioning. To begin adding content to an Omeka site, you first want to begin by creating a collection. You can then populate that collection with items. So first I will navigate up to Collections in the left-hand menu, and on the Browse Collections page I will click the green Add a Collection button. This will take me to a new page where I can enter Dublin Core information for my collection. In this tutorial, I'm going to create a collection called Durham Buildings. And then I might include a description. I might also add a creator, so I'll include my name. And then I could also choose to include other information such as the source for my information. Here's an example. If I wish to create this as a live link, all I have to do is check Use HTML, and then I can copy my link, highlight it, and under Insert Edit Link, paste in the URL in the link URL text box. And then one thing I always like to do is change the target to open link in a new window. This way, anytime a user clicks on my link, they will automatically be taken to a new window, and the tab in which your site is located will also stay open. I'm also going to include a title here for accessibility purposes. Insert. Now note, I could also include a date, so I might include a time period. I can include other kinds of information regarding the overall collection. It's just information that is true to all of the items that will be found in the collection. I'm happy with what I've done here, so all the way back up at the top, I can check public if I'm ready to publish it. If I leave that box unchecked, my collection will remain private for the time being. So if you don't want to publish your collection immediately, you don't have to. And then click Add Collection up here. Now I can find my collection in the Browse Collections page at the very top, and if I need to, I can click Edit to return to that edit page to make changes. If I go back to the Browse Collections page, let's notice a few things. I have my title, and over here on the right-hand side I have the date added, which in this case is the date that the collection was created in the Omeka site. And the total number of items is set to 0. So we'll need to create some items and add them to this collection. Now that we have a collection created, we can begin to add items to that collection. So you can navigate up to Items in the top left menu, and on the Browse Items page, you should see a list of items that may have already been created. Notice that for each item, you have a title, the creator, and a type column. So if the kind of item is important to you, whether or not it's an object in a museum or a building or a person, that can be listed there. And then the date added, so the date the item itself is created in Omeka. To add an item, we can click the green Add Item button, and this page should load an Add Item page that says Dublin Core at the top. And then you'll notice that there are 3 additional tabs: Item Type Metadata, Files, and Tags. The main metadata for any item will go in the Dublin Core fields listed on the main Add Item page. In this example, I am going to add an item for the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company building. So to give it a title, the building name, then I might provide a description about the building. A good best practice is to list all of the information for each of your items and collections in a separate Word document or Excel spreadsheet that then you can access later in case you experience a problem with Omeka and you need to have your content stored elsewhere, and also so that you can just copy and paste in your content when you're ready to add it into Omeka. I might also include a source. In this case, again, I've used opendurham.org, and I happen to have the page open, so I can copy and paste my URL in. And in this case, I could just simply type in Open Durham, and I can create a link for that by highlighting my text, clicking the Insert Edit Link button. Remember, it's the link URL you paste in the text box, and then the target, once again, open link in a new window, insert. Now for the date, 1964, and in some cases I might have multiple dates. So if the building had a renovation date or a demolition date, I can include multiple fields under date to reflect that. So in this case I could say built in 1964, and then I could add input to create an additional field, and I could say demolished in and the year. Now this building only has one date associated with it in this context, so I will remove that information. Okay. And here, because I only have one date, I'm simply going to list 1964. It's important to be consistent with the kinds of information that you provide for dates. So if there's a specific date, say January 1, 1964, make a decision about how you are going to write January 1, 1964 and any other date that includes a month, day, and year. So in this case I've chosen to type out the name of the month and then a number for the day, comma, and the year. I could also do 01-01-1964. This is also an acceptable format. I just want to be sure that I am consistent across all of my items with the format for the date. However, I only have information for the year, so I'm going to leave it as 1964. If you are working with content that crosses between BCE and CE or BC and AD, please make sure you include that information as well in the date field. The next piece of information that I'm going to include is my name under contributor, because in this case I am the person creating the item, but I want to return back to the creator field, and I want to include in this case the architects for the project. Now, what other kinds of information might we pull to add to our item? One piece of information is the location, 411 West Chapel Hill Street. This place information may be added down underneath coverage. So if we scroll down to coverage, the description for this field says the spatial or temporal topic. In this case we reserve date always for temporal information and coverage for spatial. So I will add in the address 411 West Chapel Hill Street, Durham, NC, and if I have the zip code I can include that or not. It depends on what's important to me. Now remember, there are other fields in Dublin Core that we could use. Identifier, this is great for museum objects that have been given their own unique identifier within a museum catalog, and supplying this information would enable a researcher to go to that catalog specifically and very easily find the physical object. I'm going to skip that for now and look back at type, the nature or genre of the resource. Well, if my collection is entirely about buildings, I might want to be more specific within building about what kind of type of building this is. So I could say that its type is a steel frame, that's its construction type, or I could include some other type, so maybe it's for commercial use as opposed to being residential, and this is what I'm actually going to do. In this case I will type commercial. And then remember, there are other forms, other fields language, format, relation, rights. And for relation, it might be helpful to supply links to other kinds of information, such as a video about the specific building or some other kind of media. Rights, this can be used for both the image information, or you might include in the rights field rights about the object itself. So is it in the public domain? How did you acquire the information that you have supplied in this item? And is it also available to the public? So do you have the right to publish this, say, under a Creative Commons license? Again, publisher, this tends to indicate the publisher for a document, but it could also be the patron for an art piece. Under Files, we can upload one or more image files or documents or audio files. Now, which kind of files you can upload depends on the plugins that your site has installed. For Word documents, PDFs, text files, you may need to have an additional plugin installed. For an audio file, you definitely need to have an additional plugin installed that will add an audio player to Omeka. Otherwise, what will happen is the files will be made available and users can download them directly. So we're going to be working only with image files, and in this case either PNG or JPEG files. Now it's important to notice on the files page the maximum file size. So each individual file on this particular Omeka installation can be up to 128 megabytes. Some Omeka sites limit it to 96. If you're working with Omeka.net, you may have far less. It could be as little as 2 megabytes. So be sure that you are aware of the file size, especially for images, video, and sound. So I'm going to click Browse and find my image, which I downloaded earlier, and click Open. Now, importantly, I have not yet uploaded the file. I've simply identified where the file is. If I wanted to add multiple files, I could click the green Add Another File button, and that would enable me to identify another file. In order to complete the upload process, I must now click Add Item. If I go back to Dublin Core or another one of these tabs at the top, my file will not be uploaded and the link to the file path will not be saved. So before I continue, I'm going to check Public. If I want to publish my item already, you can of course leave this private, so uncheck Public and you can publish it later. And then most importantly, before I click Add Item, I need to go to Collection and I need to place the item in the collection that we've already created. So under the drop-down menu, I will look for Durham Buildings and I will select that collection and Add Item. Now my item has been added as the very top or the very first item in this list. I have a title, North Carolina Life Insurance Company Building, a thumbnail for the image, and then the creator, in this case the architect's type, remember from that field, and then the date that this item was created. I can click Show Details to find out a little bit more information, in this case the collection that I've added this item to. I can also click Edit to return to that Dublin Core page and make changes, or I can click Delete to remove that item. Now there's no undo in Omeka, so if you choose to delete an item or a collection, it will be gone forever, so make sure that you have saved any of that content in case you need it later when you decide to delete an item or a collection. I'm going to return to the edit page for a moment to talk a little bit about item type metadata and tags. Up here at the top, you'll notice this item type metadata tab, and when I click on it, it takes me to a page with a simple drop-down for item type. In Dublin Core, we can choose to be more specific about what kind of item we are adding to Omeka by specifying whether it's a data set, an email, event, hyperlink, physical object, sound, still image, etc. Now, not every single kind of item will have an available item type, so this is entirely optional. If, for example, we decided we wanted to list the building as a physical object, we could select Physical Object and then Save Changes. And this simply provides a little bit more information for our users about that kind of item. In some cases, such as under Still Image, we also get additional fields that are more specific to that kind of item. So we can add in more information. This is certainly true of Person, which provides a number of additional fields for specifying things like birth date, birthplace, death date, occupation, etc. I'm going to leave item type set to Select Below. I don't want to make those changes. Now, tags. Tags are an additional feature in Omeka, and you'll see that there is a corresponding item in the left-hand menu called tags. Tags can be used to categorize items across collections. So this is entirely outside of the items collection structure. Tags can be used to say, categorize all buildings built in 1964, for example, or all buildings located on West Chapel Hill Street, for example. You can use tags to offer your users an alternate way to view groupings of your items. But once again, this is entirely outside of the items collection structure. So if you have multiple collections, you can use tags to shuffle your items around and show relationships between items across collections. We're not going to be using these right now, so I'm going to save my changes. And then we can go to view the public page so we get a sense of what the item looks like. So if I click View Public Page, that will open a new window. And here in this theme, I have my image first. In some Omeka themes, the image only appears at the very bottom. So I have my image first. I have the collection that it is listed under, so my user could go there and take a look at other items in the collection. There is a citation, which Omeka creates automatically for every item. And then at the bottom there is my Dublin Core metadata, which I have filled in, and of course remember I would add a description as well. Note that this link will work. It would take me to that same Open Durham page. And I can click on the image itself to load a full view if I want to. Now there's additional information that we can also apply to this image file itself. And if we wanted to do that, back in the dashboard, if I look at the thumbnail on the View Item page, I can click on it and that will open a new Dublin Core page. And this is for the file specifically. So look at the title for this page in the dashboard, File 61. So that's just the unique identifier that Omeka has applied to this file. And then the name of the file, which was added to it by the creator of opendurham.org. And when I click Edit, that opens a page where I can add Dublin Core metadata to this file. This metadata is only kept with this file, which is separate from the item metadata, and this metadata is only viewable to users within the site. For example, if you have multiple images across a time span, you can include specific file information, say about the title of the image if that's important, or who created a specific image within an item. I am not going to be using this today, so I will just save changes and return to my dashboard. Now notice under Recent Items and Recent Collections, the content that we have just created has been added. And if I go to my collection that I created now, I should see a total number of items as 1, and then under Recently Added Items, my item has also been listed. on the Browse Collections page, that information will also be shown in the far right column, total number of items.